So if you are the type of person who likes to fast forward to the end of the video to get the answer, let me save you time and tell you right now. The answer to this problem is you have to go no contact. And I'm going to spend the rest of this video telling you exactly how to do that. I'm RL, and if you are new to my video, welcome. If you are one of my currently 2 returning subscribers, welcome back and thank you. So today's video is going to be about how to exit a narcissistic relationship. And I'm so surprised that it did not cross my mind to talk about this sooner. And the reason I say that is because I was watching a video earlier today and the idea came to me to talk about narcissism. And it just so happens that I know a lot about narcissism. I'll explain why in just a second. So it would only make sense for me to talk about it because for many of us, the reason we struggle with living a life that we can enjoy and be proud of and really look after ourselves and put ourselves first is because of a painful relationship, maybe even an abusive relationship from the past. I'm willing to venture out and say that for most of us, it was probably a painful relationship with a parent. And in many cases, even though they say there aren't that many out there, I strongly disagree, and I'll explain that in a second too. In many cases, those relationships are with narcissists. So you might be thinking, well, RL, how do you know so much about narcissism? The answer is simple. I was raised by one, and I've dated like 10 of them, at least, I'm sure, over the years. And I've had narcissistic friends. And do you know why? Like, are you seeing the pattern? I surrounded myself with narcissists because it was what I knew from the beginning. So on some level, I thought that that was normal and that all relationships, or at least some relationships, were like that, and some people were just like that, and it was just a normal thing. Like, you know, you work around them, whatever, that's just the way they are. I'm here to tell you that it is not normal, and that if you find yourself in a situation like that, the best thing to do is leave. So just so we're on the same page, I will lay out a definition that let's call it my working definition of narcissism. Now, a lot of people think that a narcissist is a person who is just like full of self-love and they're like really conceited and think they're the best thing in the world. Truth is, the polar opposite is usually the case. So when I say narcissist or narcissism or a narc, I'm talking about someone who, in reality, they won't tell you and they'll try their best not to show it. And oftentimes they're very good at concealing it to, you know, the average person who doesn't know narcissistic personality disorder up close and personal like that. There's a fruit fly in my background. Just please ignore that. The truth is, most narcs have very low self-esteem. They're uncomfortable in their own skin. They feel a sense of detachment, I would say, from themselves. They are manipulative. They play games. They don't feel empathy for other people. And it's not just like, you know, oh, I'm immature. Oh, I'm, you know, I don't know, like I can't relate to someone from this walk of life. It's like, empathy, what does that feel like? You should feel bad for me, if anything. That's what you get with a narcissist. So I made notes, and this is a very complex topic, and I'm probably going to make a lot of videos about it. Comment below if you want to hear more about it. Comment below with your experiences. Like, let's get the dialogue rolling. When I thought of doing this video, I told myself I would keep it simple for starters because there's just so much to unpack about it. So I'm going to give you 3 steps to getting out of a narcissistic relationship. So step number 1 is check out of the relationship. And when I say check out, I mean mentally, I mean emotionally, I mean physically. If it's that type of a relationship, if it's like, you know, a romantic situation and there's physical activity involved, but don't be overt about it. This sounds like playing games, but it's not. You're really protecting yourself by doing this. And trust me, I've talked to a lot of people who have been in relationships where they're experiencing narcissistic abuse, and the best way to think of it is to view yourself as having an addiction. And I know that may sound extreme, but when you think about it, it's kind of true. Or if you don't want to call it a full-blown addiction, let's say you have a dependency. And that's kind of where we get the term codependent from, although a codependent relationship doesn't have to necessarily be in a narcissistic relationship. There are other types of unhealthy relationships where people are codependent, but that's a sidebar. See, told you there's a lot to get into. So think of yourself as having a dependency, an addiction, even whatever you're most comfortable calling it. But emotionally, you get tied into chasing after that high. You just want to get things back to where they were perfect, like in the beginning. And you're chasing this perfection that never existed in the first place because you weren't seeing the real person. You were seeing a mask, and that person was playing a game with you. And so when I say this to people who are in that situation, their first instinct is like, oh, I'm going to play the game back. Yeah, let's do that. No, that's not what you want to do. You want to set your mind on ending the relationship, but honestly, the safest, in my opinion, and the most practical way to end it, unless it's someone that you can just cut off cold turkey, you don't know them that well, you don't have like kids in common, or like your families aren't commingled, then yeah, you can just cut them off and like move on. But if your relationship is more complex, and I say this because oftentimes that type of personality will try to get you entangled so that you can't leave so easily. If that's your situation, you want to do it methodically. It's probably the best word, but you're not playing a game. What you're doing is you're protecting yourself, and in many, many cases, you are strategizing for your survival, basically. Because a lot of people are in danger when they deal with those types of people, and they don't even realize the extent to which they are. I mean, I'm sure you watch the news, you're on the internet, never put anything past anyone. At first for me, it was like, okay, that parent, I'm not going to tell you which one, I'll probably end up telling you eventually, but for this video, I'm just going to like leave it general. One of my parents is a narcissist, okay. And I kind of like learned to move around that and to separate myself from it. And so eventually, like, I started to suspect that this person might be a sociopath. As crazy, as extreme as it sounds. Well, that was confirmed for me years later. Another family member told me some of the stuff that this parent used to do. And yeah, downright like, yeah. Let's just say that I suspected it and it was confirmed, and this family member and I were comparing notes, and they were like, you should talk to this other family member about what that person did to her. And yeah. So like, as far as my situation, I know I said I'd talk about myself for just a quick second, but I have to qualify my credentials here to talk about the subject. What you want to do is not play the game. Believe me, you're going to be tempted to take your power back. So you think by getting sassy or like drawing attention to the fact that you no longer care, but you really still do, because it's probably going to take some time for you to not care. But trust me, it gets better once you realize that the relationship never was what you thought it was, and give yourself grace with that. Don't beat yourself over it. But once you realize that, then it's going to be easy. You're going to be like, WTH was I doing here? Let me get out. So anyway, your first step is going to be to check out. And you're going to do that by investing in yourself quietly. You're going to do that by first detaching your emotions from the relationship. If that person, let's say it's a romantic relationship, that person stays out all night. And romantic isn't the only example I'm going to give. I'll give you more to work with. But let's say your romantic partner stays out all night just to trigger you or to start fights. And maybe it doesn't even seem like that's what it is right now, but you notice that this is happening a lot. They're doing things that you tell them that you don't like. So stop getting upset about it. Stop caring. The way you're going to start doing that is by realizing that they're not the person you thought they were. But you're not going to tell them that you know that they're not the person you thought they were. You're not going to argue. You're going to be non-reactive. That's the goal here. Non-reactive. And I don't mean you let them abuse you. You distance yourself. You start working late. you're busy, you find a hobby, you find a new circle of friends that's healthy and productive. Everything you do must be healthy and productive. And so that brings me to point 1A, and there's no 1B, but let's just go with it. It's related to point A. You check out of the relationship and you check into yourself. So you're leveling up, you're improving your mental health. I highly, highly suggest you get a counselor, a therapist, you get into counseling, a support group, something. You need it now and you're really gonna need it later, depending on the extent to which you've been in a narcissistic relationship. So silence. You're leveling up. You're getting that promotion at work. You're going back to school. You're preparing yourself to be free and independent of this relationship that is not good for you. So I'll give you another example. If it is a parent, let's say, or it could even be like your supervisor at work. You're quietly leveling up. You're not telling anybody your business. You're not telling people that you're getting ready to get a new job. If it's your parent, you're probably gonna I know you're gonna have to move out. You're not gonna tell them that you're gonna have to move out soon, or that you realize that this isn't working and you need to change your living arrangements, but you're gonna be quietly in the background working on it. And you're going to spend more time outside of the house. If it's work, you're going to spend more time to yourself, or like around groups of coworkers who are more healthy. Like you're just going to limit, keep it to hi and bye, and here are those files you asked for with your boss. Like you limit communication with the person and you find reasons so that they don't automatically suspect, that you're getting away from them. Because if they do, they're gonna like really lay it on thick and kick the manipulation into high drive and try to reel you back in. And if you're watching this video, you might think, okay, I know the game now, they're not gonna reel me back in. Don't play with it, because these people are likely people who have been playing the manipulation game, since age 5 or whenever someone begins to exhibit that type of personality disorder. But basically, in summary, for number 1 and 1A, you are getting your ducks in a row, but you're doing it quietly. Number 2, I'm going to reiterate, get counseling. You might not think you need it, but you need it. Find, if cost affordability, that type of thing is kind of appears to be a barrier to you, find some free counseling. You can get it at church. I would recommend make sure that your church is healthy and spiritually aligned and isn't another bad situation. But not that all churches are. I'm just saying you have to be careful because you're vulnerable right now. But get counseling. Go to your county health clinic. You can, if you have a county hospital, oftentimes maybe you can call them, and they can refer you to someone who does free or sliding scale counseling. Again, religious organizations that are healthy and good for you and aren't cult-like situations. Gotta say that because, people end up in situations. You know how it is. We all watch the news. I'm trying to think of other, if you want to do online counseling, there's BetterHelp. There, even just a regular person that you Google, ask them if they do sliding scale services where they'll counsel you based on what you can afford. They'll look at your income level. And yeah, if, maybe you feel like you don't have the mobility. Maybe you're in a relationship where the other person has the car and they have to drive you everywhere. So then look into online counseling options, or over the phone, or, maybe there's somewhere within walking distance, or you can take public transit or whatever. But make sure that you can find some counseling for yourself, because you're going to need it. Because when you dismantle the levels of abuse that go into narcissistic relationships, it's kind of it's easy to blame yourself. And, I'll just say, plan to have that support network in place. Also, make better friends. Start going to places that are good for you, healthy, whether it's going back to school, whether it is going to your place of worship, getting involved. Because, another thing you need to do is work on your spirituality. Because to me, I do think narcissism is a spiritual problem. I highly believe that. But find, your place of worship that is in alignment with you and what's good and what's right spiritually, and in alignment with God, and that personal belief, to each his or her own, but God, like, from whom all good things and blessings flow, that's what you want to be in alignment with. And yeah, just like get back to that, get back to your spirituality, or get into like seeking positivity, love and light, truth spiritually, and just like build yourself up in every way, career wise, educationally, if you're in school, if you need to go back to school, spiritual, as I just said, mentally, support network, socially. If you have like people who really are good friends, but maybe the person in your life cut off those friendships, because that's another common thing with narcs, they like to isolate you, might be time to go back and start mending those relationships. So number 3, because remember, we're simplifying this, keeping it into 3 steps. When the time is right, capital RIGHT, or when time is of the essence, meaning, if you're in a dangerous situation, if it's an abusive situation, even then you got to be strategic, but like by all means, don't put yourself in danger. But when the time is right, and you'll know it pretty much, maybe the perfect time won't come around, but when the time is right and the opportunity arises, get out, leave. When the time is right, exit stage left. That's what I wrote on my notes. But yeah, it's self-explanatory. I'm going to reiterate, leave as quietly as possible. Whether you're leaving in the middle of the night, whether you pretend you go on vacation, or whether you do actually go on vacation, but when you come back, you go to your new house or apartment that you have lined up in step 2, because you're getting your ducks in a row in step 2. So that means if you need to, and believe me, if this person like knows where you live, unless you live in like a gated community and they don't have access or something, then change your address, change your phone number, change your contact info. People, this is going to be hard, especially like if you have kids or if it's like family related. The people you have in common, you're going to have to put those relationships on the back burner for a while until you get out of that situation, you're okay, and you're in a place where you can't be pulled back in. And you're going to have to establish boundaries with those people and let them know, do not share my contact information. Do not put this person in connection with me. The relationship isn't what you thought it was, or maybe they knew that it was bad or whatever, but sometimes common friends, family members, they can be meddlesome, and maybe they don't even intend it that way, but people will try to get you to reconcile with that person, all the while either not knowing or not caring, because it's not them who are in the situation, or they're a flying monkey, which is a totally different thing. They will try to get you to reconcile with that person because they just think it's just a small conflict, when really there are fundamental reasons why I'm slapping my notebook with my hand, sorry. Really, there are fundamental reasons why you cannot be in a relationship with that person. So stick to your guns. Don't resume those common friends, family member relationships you have in common until you're ready, and until you have support on your side, people who are affirming your decision to get out of that unhealthy relationship, and set those boundaries. Tell that person, I can't be friends with you. I can't be in communion with you. I can't, we can't hang out. You can't come over to my new place if you're not going to respect my boundaries, and not bring that person up, not try to get me to reconcile with them, not share my information with that person. Don't tell them how I'm doing. Act like you haven't even talked to me, if that's what you have to do, but there's no more of that, and you're going to have to either find a way to be friends with both of us, or I gotta do me and draw the line in the sand. And that's what it is. So those are the 3 steps to leaving a narcissistic relationship. I'm going to keep this video short. Trust and believe I'm going to make some more videos on this topic, because there's a lot to unpack even within those 3 steps. I know that those relationships can be complex, and it can take a long time to leave, or it's not so easy. You have things in common, you share property, you're married, you have kids, whatever the case may be. But just know that it can be done. Know that it's not impossible. Know that it's the right thing for you to do, because you don't need to be in an abusive relationship. And believe me, it will wear you down. if you let that person have their way, because their whole goal and objective for every relationship they get into is to benefit from it, to bleed the other person dry, and to leave them a shell of who they were with nothing. And that's what makes a narcissist feel powerful, because they're incapable of feeling like someone inherently and in and of themselves without having to control, manipulate, and basically drain someone else and leave that person in a more miserable state than they themselves are. Because I guarantee you, every narcissist, no matter how much it looks like he's moved on, no matter how much it looks like they don't care that you've cut them off, no matter how many promotions that abusive employer, supervisor gets at work, they're miserable. I guarantee it. Trust me, because I've seen it up close and personal. So that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, please take care and be well, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.